All right, what is good, ladies and gentlemen? It is Themasr reviewer back again with another review, and today we are doing a review for A Whisker Away. This is a rewatch for me. This is, this is honestly, I think this is probably I haven't seen too many anime movies, and I'll just start off by saying also that it's been a while since we've done an anime review. I think the last one was for Dr. Stone, which was a few weeks ago by now, and even that was a continuation. The last new anime that we did a review for was Star Wars Visions, which I think was at least over a month ago. So yeah, I am hopefully going to be getting back to some more anime reviews in the near future, hopefully. So yeah, this is, I think, from what I remember, this was my second favorite anime movie, and so I haven't seen too many anime movies, but this is, I think, from what I remember, this was my second favorite. So on rewatch, I will say it was, I would say my opinions didn't really change on it. It's about as good as I remember it being, and if not maybe slightly lower, because maybe I went into it with too high expectations, but even still, it's still off the bat, I'm pretty positive about it. So let us just begin, starting off with the plot. So the plot of the film is that basically there is this girl. I have the names pulled up here because they are a bit Japanese names as usual. It's a bit hard for me to remember them. So Mio, she is the protagonist, and she is in love with this boy in her class, Hinode, and she really wants to get close to him. Mio herself, she is a child of divorce. Her parents are split off. Her mom abandoned her basically. But then the film starts with basically Mio's mom trying to get her to tell her father that she wants to live with her mother, and so it is portrayed very much off the bat. We're shown that Mio is in a situation where there's a lot of she's not in a good situation where it's her mom is already trying to manipulate her and stuff. So her mom is not really a prominent character at all in the film though. But anyway, Mio, her parents are divorced, and so she is already having a tough time dealing with the fact that she is living with a new stepmother. Her name is, let me see here, her name is Karu, and so yeah, so she is, though she puts on a very happy persona to the world. Basically, she is very positive every time she goes to school. She doesn't care about people bullying her, even though a lot of kids do end up bullying her in her class. And so, but she is very positive, and her motive is basically she wants to be positive for Hinode. So the film basically, the first I want to say the first hour, basically it kind of shifts in the last half hour, but the first hour is basically Mio, she ends up meeting this mask seller, this cat basically, who sells masks of cats to humans so that they can turn into cats, and vice versa, human masks to cats so that they can turn into humans. And basically now Mio, she has a cat mask, so she turns into a cat, and she goes to visit Hinode. Hinode had he had a dog that died named Taro, so when he meets Mio as a cat, he ends up naming her Taro, and he thinks it's a reincarnation of his dead dog, I guess. So yeah, Mio is her plan is to get close to Hinode based on finding out information about him while she is a cat, and then using that information to actually help her pursue his love while she is human. So that is going on for the first hour, I would say, and then the mask seller is trying to, over the course of the film, he's trying to convince her to stay as a cat. He basically says oh, you're making so much progress with him as a cat, but you're obviously never going to confess your feelings when you're a human, so you should just stay as a cat. And the mask seller's ultimate motive is that he wants the deal to go down where Mio becomes a permanent cat, so that way, and he wants to later on in the film, there's another cat. What is her name here? Let me see here. Kinako. Kinako is Karu, Mio's stepmother's cat. Kinako, she just very much wants to give back the love that Karu showed her, and so Kinako, she ends up later on in the film, she makes a deal with the mask seller to get Mio's mask in order so that she could portray herself as Mio and give back the love that Karu gave to her. However, when that happens, Karu, she's just she ends up just being not she doesn't really portray herself as being overly sad about it, but she is just kind of worried about the fact that Kinako went missing, and so this ends up leading to Kinako regretting her decision, but that's later on. So at this point, I don't even know what point I'm at in the film. So yeah, towards the end, basically, it comes about the time where there's a certain summer festival that is going on, and so at this time, there's basically a time limit at this point. So no, I'm skipping over certain details. Earlier in the film, I think Mio, she wanted to kind of confess her feelings to Hinode, so she ends up writing him a letter, but then these bullies come in and starts they steal the letter, very petty stuff. Honestly, this is stuff that I feel never really happens in real life, but it's the classic bully thing of embarrassing her in front of everyone by reading off her love letter to Hinode, and this also kind of embarrasses Hinode, so he, in a moment of anger and and being upset, he ends up going off on Mio, basically saying how he hates her and stuff. And so this leads to Mio running away. And then from there, everyone is worried about her. Like she's gone missing, and so everyone's searching for her. And so this is the point where Mio kind of becomes permanently. She has accepted the fact that she wants to she doesn't want to be human anymore. And from that, her actual human face mask comes off, I guess. And so the mask seller takes it, and at this point, he sells it to Kineko in order for her to be able to become human and again pay back the love that I guess Kaoru showed her when she was a cat. So, but then Kineko kind of realizes that she still kind of prefers to be a cat, as well as the fact that just Kaoru misses Kineko, like the cat Kineko. So she ends up deciding that she made the wrong decision, and so this leads into the third act of the film, where so Kineko in Mio's body ends up going to meet with Hinode, and then she kind of explains everything that went down basically. And so now Hinode and Kineko, they are going to try to save Mio from staying a cat permanently. At this point, Mio, she ends up hearing from Kineko about she says now that you're a cat, you can see things that only cats can see. So cats can see this red line that leads them into this gateway to this cat world, which is like this giant tree, this spiritual tree with a bunch of cats that are living there. And so this is the third act of the film, where basically Mio is trying to find the mask seller in order to reverse the transfiguration, I guess, and Hinode and Kineko there are also there. So yeah, they end up meeting some humans that turned into cats, and they have regrets about it, but so they end up helping out Mio with her situation. And so I'm just going to skip ahead, but basically it leads to the ultimately they find the mask seller, and so Hinode, he starts fighting him, and I think along the way he also, before that happened, Hinode, he finally started he was having finally had a heart-to-heart, I guess, with Mio, and he started saying about how it's he realizes that she was always there for him and how much he appreciates her and stuff. And it's basically they're kind of they're talking out their feelings with each other. And so then eventually, they start fighting the mask seller, but he has the upper hand because he's just stronger, I guess. And then the other cats, the previously human cats, they end up showing up and helping Mio and Hinode take down the mask seller. And at this point, so Mio gets her mask back. Kineko and Hinode, so the mask seller is defeated. They are now going back to the human world. And the film kind of ends with, so Hinode and Mio, they are holding hands. I think they both confess their love to each other. And then finally, we have a bit of a post-credit montage of just some extra scenes that happen. I think that Mio, she ends up speaking with her friend, what's her name? Yoriko. So there's some just a second here. Just some final post-credit scenes that there's a bit of a montage for. So that is basically where the film ends. And so overall, I'm going to give the plot, I would say, between a 3 to a 4 out of 5. I think that the plot, it's a good plot. I definitely would say, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to say I liked it. But it's not one of my favorite plots ever, but I think the thing is, it's it might just be the pacing, honestly. The pacing, it feels like the first hour, it doesn't feel like too much is really happening in the first hour, even if it is the overall kind of thing of Mio trying to portray her feelings to Hinode. I think it is good. It's just that it does feel like maybe there's a bit of a pacing issue with the movie, but and then the final half hour, it's pretty much a big switch, where up until this point, it's everything was pretty grounded in reality, to the extent that ignoring the whole Mio turning into a cat, all that. By the way, her name is Mio. In the actual movie, they call her Muge, I'm pretty sure, it's a nickname. It means something in Japanese. Everyone kind of describes Mio as being very eccentric and very something goo eyes or something like that for Hinode, so they gave her the name Muge as a nickname for her. So anyway, the plot, I'm going to give it a 4 to 5. I would say I liked it. Not my favorite plot ever, but definitely still a plot that I liked a lot. In terms of the characters, I'll do a character ranking after this, but I'll just quickly give my thoughts. I thought she was a fantastic protagonist, very eccentric. I think these characters, there's always the very much eccentric, goofball, the quirky kind of characters, and all of them always feel a bit different from each other. There's no two that ever kind of feel the same. There's Steven Universe, there's Mabel from Gravity Falls, there's Mio in this case. So there's Luz from the Owl House. So these characters always feel they're all the same archetype, but they always have differences to make them kind of stand out and feel unique. And I think that Mio is a very, very great portrayal of this kind of archetype. I think that she was a very good protagonist to follow along to in her show. I felt very bad for her, but at the same time, it's she is this character that she is portraying herself as being very happy all the time, but she does have some genuine moments in the film where she has a lot of rage and sadness and stuff. So I do think that she like I like her as a protagonist. I would say Hinode. I think Hinode is he's very like stoic. Like I think that's kind of the point of his character, where it's like he's trying to hide his true feelings about things, where he can't like express his true emotions and stuff. But just part of that does mean that he's less charismatic as Mio is. So, but I still think he's a good character. I would say definitely the moments where he's like bonding with Taro and it's actually Mio, I thought that was great. And the actual, we'll get to the romance aspect soon, but I do like the romance aspect. The Masked Seller, I think that he's a good villain. I will say though that he does feel towards the end like a bit weak, just out of nowhere. Like he feels like he should easily be able to win based on, I don't know, just the fact that he feels like a menacing character that up until this point he's been in control of like all the situations, but then towards the end just Hinode jumps on him, as well as like Mio. They also just kind of like attack him, and they're able to sort of not completely subdue him, but then the rest of the cats, they show up and then they manage to subdue him. So he's a good antagonist. Definitely his whole motive is that he just wants to, once the deal actually goes through where Mio becomes a permanent cat, then he gets part of her lifespan when she dies, I think, something like that. It's something to do with like lifespans, and he will basically, his whole motive is just to live longer. He just wants her lifespan basically. So Yoriko, she is the best friend of Mio. She's also good. She is just the best friend of Mio that's like always just there to, she cares for her a lot. And it's actually interesting after after the whole confession scene that happens where Mio has like her love letter written out loud, she's not even upset about it. So it's Yoriko is the one that is crying over the fact that like Mio just got embarrassed in front of everyone. So great friends. There's some minor characters, a lot of the parents, Karu, Kineko, all of them I'll get more into in the character ranking. Yeah, there's not too many characters, but yeah, I will get more into detail with the character rankings. Overall, I'm going to give the characters, I will probably say, don't worry about that, I will give probably I'm thinking like a 6.5 to a 7. I'm thinking like between good and pretty good, I would say. And I'm going to be kind of harsh. I'm just going to give it a good. I think that Mio really carries the cast as the protagonist, because I think she's just a very good protagonist. I don't think anyone else really gets to her level. So I'm just going to say 6.5 overall, good characters. In terms of the settings, it all takes place in Japan as usual. So very nice, Japanese settings. They always look pretty good, I would say. A lot of like suburban areas, the school areas are nice as well. The actual final spiritual kind of cat area, it does look pretty unique, I would say. Not one of my favorites ever, but definitely something interesting. And yeah, overall, it's mostly just like suburb areas. It's all fine. It's not like anything amazing, I would say. I'd give it probably we'll go like a 6 out of 10 for the settings, above average, but definitely nothing too unique, except for like the cat area. I guess that's kind of unique, I would say. But even that, it's I've seen kind of, there's been like properties that there's been media I've seen with like spiritual tree areas and stuff. Like it's not the most original thing, but definitely it is still good, I would say. In terms of the visuals, I do like the art style. The art style, it does look very nice. It is pretty clean, I would say. I don't know how to describe it. It's a nice art style, I would say. The visuals, the animation looks pretty good, I would say. It does look pretty, not fluid, I would say, but just like very, not a fluid animation, but a nice animation, I would say. Again, I don't know this property specifically. I'm struggling to describe the visuals, but yeah, there's some nice shots of like sunrises and stuff, which I think this movie has a pretty big emphasis on, like sunrises, because it's part of like it's a motif, I think, for Hinode, and Mio like describes him a lot in relation to like sunrise and stuff. Hinode even describes Mio as, he says both Mio and Taro, they smell like the sun. I don't really know what that means, what it means to like to smell like the sun. So yeah, anyway, I would say that I forgot what the visuals, I'm sorry if you hear the dogs barking. I think from the last recording that I did for the Lightyear review, I listened back to it, and it was, the microphone does help a lot. It does make it so it drowns out the noise of the barking, but it does still sound kind of annoying. So even just for the sake, even if you guys don't hear, I'm actually just going to pause for a bit until it stops, so that I'm able to get through this review easier. Okay, that should be better now. I think they stopped barking. So yeah, overall, I would say that the visuals, I'm going to give it a 7.5. I'm going to say very good visuals. It does look very nice. These anime movies in general, they just have very nice visuals in general. And so yeah, 7.5 for the visuals. I think Taro herself, like all the cats, they actually look pretty good in this art style, I would say. And yeah, overall, yeah, 7.5 for the visuals. Next is the romance. The romance is mainly between Mio and Hinode. Besides them, there's also, like, I guess there's a bit of a thing going on between Yoriko, the best friend of Mio, and Isami, the best friend of Hinode. Besides that, that's basically the romance. So I'm just going to speak about Mio and Hinode because there's not really a lot of substance with the other one. So Hinode and Mio, I do think that it is a good relationship. I do like it's very much, it's pretty one-sided, and at the beginning, I am having like sort of thoughts of like, okay, it's like I know how it ends and stuff, and it does end well, but it does feel at times a bit like, even Yoriko, she kind of describes it as Mio being a bit stalkerish towards Hinode, and to be fair, there is a bit of like some stalker nature kind of going on with her the whole aspect of like her turning into a cat just to spy on him, kind of, as well as that's like already a bit of an invasion of privacy, even though it's still wholesome. I'm gonna look past the immoral aspects of it, but even so, yeah, I think that the actual towards the end when it's like they actually realizes his feelings for Mio, I think that it is good. The actual ending where they finally like basically confess their feelings to each other, I also think is very nice. And overall, I think that it's not one of my favorite relationships ever, just because once again I think that Mio is great, but I do think that Hinode is just very stoic. And I know it's meant to be part of his character, but even so, it just means that the moments with him, it's like he's not as, I don't know, there's not too much like real chemistry that we see between the two of them, because for one, most of the moments that it's just basically like there's moments where we see Hinode and Taro, but it doesn't feel like it's even Mio in that scene, because it feels like Taro feels like a bit of a different character compared to Mio. So, but although they do have like certain shots of where it is Taro and Hinode, but then it's like they'll cut to a shot of where it's Mio instead of Taro. So yeah, but overall I would say that, yeah, so again, even when it is just like Hinode, there's almost no scenes where it's just Hinode and Mio. It's usually Yoriko is there or Hisami is there. So that there is towards the end where it is like, I think there were some good scenes between, but it wasn't Mio. It was like Mio's body and Hinode, but it was Kineko controlling Mio's body. So it like, I thought that when they actually do have one-on-one conversations, it's good, but it's like almost never actually just Mio and Hinode. Even so, I still think the romance, I'm going to give it probably I'm thinking between like a 7.5 to an 8. I think that it is between very good and great. I'm going to be harsh with it, though. I'm just going to call it 7.5, very good. I would say very, very good romance, but yeah, it's not the best I've ever seen or anything. So in terms of the worst thing, I think that the worst thing about this is, again, maybe just the pacing. It does feel at times maybe a bit slow, and like at the start, like not a lot is really going on. Even so, it's not like terrible pacing. I would just give it probably like, I'll just go like a 5 out of 10, because at times at the beginning it does feel like just not a lot's going on. Like it is meant to like just develop the characters, and like it's meant to show like, okay, this is Mio, how she's like going through life with how she's like dealing with Hinode, how she's dealing with her friends and stuff, and how she is just taking on this like difficult, I don't know, situation, I guess, that she's in, where it's like she likes Hinode, he doesn't recuperate the feelings at first, and also she's dealing with all this stuff going on with her parents' divorce and stuff, and so living with a stepmom. So just overall, it's still good. Like I would still probably say even like the first hour a bit better than the last hour. I think the last hour, it's good. The last half hour of like the spirit side of things, but it's just very much kind of less so focused on it just feels like a bit of like maybe whiplash, because up until that point it feels pretty grounded in reality with the whole, again, besides the whole like Mio turning into a cat, but then in the last half it is very much kind of focused a bit more on like, gets a bit more stressful and pressuring with like the whole time aspect of Mio is about to turn back into a cat and stuff, and it does feel like pretty hopeless at times. And the only way, like honestly, if it wasn't for Kineko just wanting to go back into being a cat, like Mio would absolutely have been screwed in this situation. So yeah, overall, I would say that I think that just the pacing was fine, but I feel like it maybe could have been maybe a bit shorter at times or something like that. But yeah, I'm just gonna go 5 to 10 for the pacing, I guess, because that is the only thing I can really think of. In terms of the best thing, I will say that the best thing, probably Mio's character. Just I really liked her character as the protagonist. I thought that she was, I would say, honestly, like an amazing protagonist. I'm gonna give her like an 8.5. I would say definitely my favorite character, and definitely an amazing protagonist, I would say, for the film. And yeah, so that is all of these scores. Let's see any extra notes I did not already mention. I did like the third act music. I think that music in the third act was pretty good. It had like a bit of a jazz thing going on at the end there, and specifically like in the chase scene, not like the very final, like the music at the end, like even in the final few scenes was also good. The post-credit scene also, there's no post-credit scenes, but the montage that they did in the end had some good music as well. But I do think that by the way, I'm just noticing here, it says the English voice actor for Hinode was Johnny Young Bosch, who also voices Ichigo from Bleach, so I'm just seeing that now, which I just happen to know, so that's cool to see. Yeah, so what was I saying? Yeah, the third act music is pretty good, I would say, so just mentioning that and let's hear, I did write down that the confession scene of, like, when, the confession scene where it's like Mio is trying to give Hinode the letter, and then the bullies, they end up reading it out loud. I thought that was a very good scene, as well as the rage scene that followed, where basically Mio, she goes back to her house, and then I think Karu tries to comfort her, as well as her father, and she just starts like getting really angry and stuff. I thought that was also a very good scene, so just mentioning those. And yeah, that is all the extra notes. I'm going to do the calculations. So King Crimson. All right, so it ends up coming out to exactly a 7 out of 10, but I think I'd give it higher than that. I think I'd probably give it a 7.5. I think maybe going into it, like it being my second favorite anime movie, I think that didn't really help because I think I may have gone into it with just slightly higher expectations from what I remembered from it. On rewatch, it's a bit worse, I would say. I think maybe the first time around I would have given it maybe an 8, I would say, but even so, on rewatch, I would still say it is a very good movie, so I'm going to give it a solid 7.5, I would say. So maybe if I let it marinate, maybe it'll get a bit better. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to call it a 7.5. I thought it was very good. And so, yeah, that is pretty much all there is to it. So if you have any recommendations, any shows, movies, video game stories, anime, manga, web series, anything that you want me to review, leave it in the comments and I will maybe possibly check it out. But that said, that is pretty much all there is to it. So let's leave it at that.